The bright lights of the TV studio cut sharply across the room. The camera focused on a face that seemed entirely in control, calm, composed, and confident. This was Eric Trump, the son of a former U.S. president, a name synonymous with power, influence, and media attention. At this moment, Eric Trump believed he was winning the hearing. His voice carried authority. His words were measured. His tone suggested that anyone facing him was already defeated. He looked straight at the cameras, as if addressing not just the committee but the entire nation. Yet, there was one crucial thing he didn't realize. This was only the beginning. Confidence or arrogance. Political hearings in the United States are nothing new. Every day, channels broadcast personalities defending their party, their policies, and their version of the truth. Eric Trump was part of this tradition. That day, he presented himself as someone in command of the situation, someone who knew the facts, and someone impervious to challenge. His words projected superiority, that his family was under unfair attack, that the media was biased, and that Democrats were distorting facts. With each statement, his confidence grew. But confidence and arrogance are separated by a fine line, and Eric Trump had crossed it. Silent presence on the stage. Meanwhile, another presence in the room went unnoticed by casual viewers. She didn't interrupt. She didn't speak. But she was listening. This was Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Democratic congresswoman from Texas, a lawyer, and a voice that often speaks when others stay silent. At this moment, she remained quiet, and her silence spoke volumes. Eric Trump's narrative. Eric Trump's responses followed a clear pattern. He deflected questions rather than answering them directly. He shifted blame instead of facing scrutiny. He played on emotion rather than addressing facts. His narrative was simple. We are being targeted because we challenge the system. This was a phrase often used in American politics, repeated time and again. But it was rarely true. What Eric Trump failed to recognize was that he wasn't just facing a panel of questioners. He was facing a trained legal mind, watching every word, every pause, every gesture. The illusion of power. In any political hearing, the most dangerous thing is the illusion of power. Eric Trump's demeanor radiated it. His name alone seemed enough. His voice appeared infallible. His experience seemed larger than any question. But in politics, especially on live TV, a single misstep, a single false statement, can undo everything. And Eric Trump was about to make that mistake. Jasmine Crockett, a different approach. Crockett's style was not loud. She did not shout or dramatize. She asked questions. And questions are often the most dangerous weapon for powerful individuals. At this moment, she listened intently. Every word he spoke, every claim he made, every contradiction was noted. To most viewers, it might have seemed uneventful. But this was the moment where the entire game was about to change. The audience's deception. For TV viewers, it appeared that Eric Trump was in control. The reasons were simple. He was talking more. He appeared confident. His answers seemed unshakable. But in political hearings, talking more doesn't equal winning. Sometimes silence, and the perfectly timed question, does all the damage. A dangerous moment. Eric Trump made a statement that would later prove to be his most critical error. He implied that the law was being unfair to his family. The system was deliberately targeting them. This was a serious allegation. And this was the moment. Jasmine Crockett decided that silence had done its job. The calm before the storm. For a brief moment, the room felt unusually still. Eric Trump leaned back, convinced he had delivered a strong point. He was satisfied. Confidence radiated from him. The kind of confidence often displayed by the powerful when they believe themselves untouchable. But he did not yet realize that the next few minutes would unravel everything he had carefully constructed. This was more than a hearing. This was not just a clash between Eric Trump and Jasmine Crockett. It was a collision between power and accountability, a test between noise and reason, a confrontation between inherited influence and constitutional scrutiny. And in this confrontation, the story had only just begun. The room was still, almost unnaturally quiet, as Eric Trump maintained his poised exterior. For nearly an hour, he had been answering questions with the same measured tone, the same polite smile, the same rehearsed words. Each answer seemed professional, controlled, almost flawless. Yet, beneath that calm facade, tension was building, a tension only one person in the room could feel fully, Jasmine Crockett. She hadn't interrupted once. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't made dramatic gestures for the cameras. She had simply watched, listened, and recorded. And what she recorded was more than notes. It was a record of every single statement, every claim, every implication that Eric Trump made that day. The statement that broke the spell. It happened 42 minutes into the hearing. A question about the Trump Organization's international business had come. A seemingly simple, direct question. After 2016, did the Trump Organization engage in any new international deals while your father was president? Eric Trump answered without hesitation. No. When my father became president, we made a family decision. No new international deals. We felt it was the right thing to do. The words flowed with confidence. Every syllable suggested honesty, transparency, and integrity. Several members of the committee nodded, impressed by the clarity and composure. Some Republicans in the room even leaned toward one another, whispering approval. To everyone watching, Eric Trump appeared untouchable. But Jasmine Crockett had seen the truth, and it was starkly different. A calm watcher, Crockett's presence in the room was deceptive. While Eric spoke and the cameras broadcasted his confidence to millions, she remained silent. She didn't need to interrupt. She didn't need to argue. She was gathering evidence, constructing a timeline, and preparing the moment when his lie would be exposed. To the untrained eye, it was just patience. But patience is a powerful weapon in politics. Crockett understood this. Every word Eric Trump had spoken would soon collide with reality. The timeline unfolds. After Eric's confident denial, Crockett began to methodically lay out the facts. Slowly, deliberately, she clicked through a series of slides projected behind her. Dubai, 2018. A new licensing agreement announced by the Trump Organization. Saudi Arabia, 2019. Resort Development Partnership. Philippines, 2019. Expansion of Trump Tower Manila. Indonesia, 2020. New licensing deals. Oman, 2021. Golf course development. Scotland, 2022. Turnberry expansion. Saudi Arabia, 2023. New partnership announcement. UAE, 2024. Trump Tower Dubai expansion. Each entry appeared on the screen like a chain of evidence, each one contradicting Eric's statement. And each was public, verifiable, and undeniable. Crockett turned back to him calmly, her voice neutral, professional. That's 8 countries, Mr. Trump. All deals announced after 2017. While your father was president or seeking the presidency again. You testified under oath that there were no international deals. Looking at this list, does that still sound accurate? For the first time that day, a slight tightening crossed Eric Trump's face. He shifted in his seat, searching for a way to recover. Those were existing relationships, he started, attempting to explain. Crockett interrupted, firm but still composed. No, they weren't. These were new deals, new licenses, new development agreements, new announcements. The room went silent. The calm, polished demeanor that Eric had relied on for the past 45 minutes was suddenly cracking. Perjury defined. Then she said it. The word that would dominate headlines and legal analyses in the days and weeks to come. That is perjury, Mr. Trump. The air in the room shifted. Cameras captured the subtle changes in Eric's expression. The slight parting of lips, the tightening jaw, the flicker of unease in his eyes. The confident tone that had carried him this far had suddenly failed him. He was no longer the polished witness. He was someone trapped by his own words. Unfolding evidence. Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse him. She simply presented evidence. Financial statements showing inflated valuations of Trump properties. Court documents from a New York fraud case where Eric and the Trump Organization had been found liable. Emails and checks proving the reimbursement of hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Every document, every email, every record told the same story. Eric Trump's testimony did not match reality. By now, the public narrative had shifted. What had started as a controlled, confident performance had become a legal and political unraveling in real time. Charity scandal emerges. Next, Crockett turned her attention to the Eric Trump Foundation, which was purportedly raising funds for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. You held fundraising events at Trump properties, golf courses, hotels. Sometimes at market rate, sometimes above market rate. The Found Act. Properties, golf courses, hotels. Sometimes at market rate, sometimes above market rate. The foundation paid your family's business hundreds of thousands of dollars, money donated by people who believed it was going to sick children. How is that ethical? Eric attempted to defend himself. We donated millions to St. Jude. Crockett's response was methodical. After routing money through your family business first, that's self-dealing. The foundation was investigated and eventually dissolved because of it. Even here, Crockett didn't shout, didn't demand drama. She let facts speak for themselves. And the facts were damning. Personal wealth and foreign investments. Then came the most striking revelation of all. Eric Trump's personal wealth. 2024. Net worth estimated at $100 million. 2025. Reported at over $1 billion. A tenfold increase in a single year. Crockett traced the flow of money back to foreign governments, including the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, all coinciding with key moments in the presidential timeline. November 2024. Trump wins the election. December 2024. World Liberty Financial announced. February 2025. $2 billion invested by UAE. March 2025. $1 billion invested by Saudi interests. By now, Eric's composure had fully crumbled. What had been a smooth, confident testimony was now a series of contradictions, lies, and exposures. Social media evidence. Crockett presented Eric Trump's own Instagram posts. One in Saudi Arabia celebrated future developments in the country, a direct contradiction to his claim of no new international deals. You just told this committee there were no international deals, but here you are publicly celebrating new ones. That wasn't true, was it? The calm authority in her tone left Eric with no room for evasion. He was forced to acknowledge that his testimony had been false. The moment of truth. For the first time in the hearing, Eric Trump looked rattled. His previously unwavering confidence had evaporated. He had attempted to control the narrative through professionalism, tone, and timing, but facts don't care about tone. Crockett's approach was surgical. Silence. Precise questions. Clear evidence. No theatrics, no shouting, no political grandstanding. She simply exposed the lie. And in doing so, she turned the hearing into a legal reckoning. The public reaction. Within minutes, clips from the hearing began circulating online. Headlines highlighted the perjury claim. Eric Trump caught lying under oath. Trump Organization international deals exposed. From confidence to credibility collapse in 1 hour. Legal analysts dissected every statement. Media outlets, both friendly and critical, acknowledged the severity. The narrative that Eric Trump had controlled the hearing was gone. The new story was one of exposure, contradiction, and accountability. By now, the story had begun to take a darker turn. Eric Trump's testimony, initially seen as confident and controlled, started to unravel under scrutiny. Every answer he gave, every statement he made, was being cross-referenced with documents, emails, and public records. And slowly, a pattern emerged, a pattern of contradictions, omissions, and careful evasions. Investigators were particularly focused on the financial documents. Statements that had once appeared straightforward now revealed discrepancies. Property valuations seemed inflated. Foreign deals were downplayed, and charity contributions were misrepresented. What had appeared as minor inconsistencies now looked increasingly deliberate. Inside the Trump Organization, whispers of concern were growing. Executives and advisors began questioning whether Eric's testimony could hold up under the intense legal microscope. Meetings were held in private, with lawyers poring over emails, contracts, and memos. Every word mattered. Every signature carried weight. Meanwhile, the media sensed a breaking story. clips of Eric speaking confidently were juxtaposed with documents proving otherwise. Social media users dissected every frame, and hashtags calling out inconsistencies began trending nationally. The calm composure that Eric displayed during the hearing was no match for the tide of evidence accumulating against him. And then, the whistleblowers started to come forward. Former employees, accountants, and internal auditors brought forth internal communications, emails, memos, and reports that clearly contradicted Eric's statements. It wasn't just about perception anymore. There was tangible proof of misleading testimony. Legal analysts quickly weighed in, noting that these developments could form the basis of serious charges. Perjury, financial misrepresentation, and obstruction of justice were no longer hypothetical. They were now part of the conversation. Experts explained that even a single false statement under oath, when proven deliberate, could carry significant legal consequences. As the pressure mounted, Eric's public appearances grew more cautious. The carefully curated image of composure and control was under siege, and even small mistakes could be exploited in court, in media, and on social platforms. The stakes had shifted dramatically. What once seemed like a routine congressional hearing had evolved into a full-scale legal storm. And for the public watching, the lesson was clear. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how tightly you try to control the narrative. As the investigation intensified, Eric Trump found himself navigating a perilous path. One misstep could have irreversible consequences, both for him personally and for the organization he represented. As the days passed, the pressure on Eric Trump only intensified. What had begun as a congressional hearing now spilled into every corner of public attention. Every question, every document, every timeline became a point of scrutiny. And while Eric had once relied on calm composure and measured words, the tide of evidence left him with fewer options to maintain control. Legal teams inside and outside the Trump organization were now working frantically. Every transaction, every financial statement, every email from the past years was examined for contradictions. The stakes weren't just political, they were deeply personal and financial. Lawyers debated strategies behind closed doors. Should he cooperate? Should he delay? Or should he attempt to attack the credibility of the questioning? Each option carried serious consequences. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett's approach remained surgical. Calm, precise, and methodical. She didn't yell, she didn't accuse, she didn't overplay her hand. She simply laid the facts bare, letting the record speak for itself. And the record, increasingly, told a story that contradicted Eric's testimony at every turn. As more evidence emerged, connections began to form. Foreign deals, charitable mismanagement, inflated valuations, and questionable financial practices all converged into a single, alarming picture. Analysts and the media started calling it a pattern of deliberate deception. Public perception shifted rapidly. The quiet, composed son of a president was no longer just facing political scrutiny. He was under the weight of undeniable facts. Social media amplified every development. Clips, screenshots, timelines. Each piece reinforced the narrative that Eric Trump's statements were at odds with reality. Memes circulated highlighting inconsistencies, while news networks, even some traditionally sympathetic outlets, were forced to report the growing legal implications. Inside the Trump organization, executives began quietly distancing themselves from key decisions. Deals stalled, communications slowed, and meetings that once included Eric were now held without him. The combination of legal risk and public exposure made him a liability. His image, carefully constructed over decades, was cracking under scrutiny, and there was no simple way to repair it. By this point, investigators were connecting dots that had previously gone unnoticed. Foreign investments, cryptocurrency ventures, and financial disclosures were now under the lens. Every movement, every decision, every signature was a potential thread in a web of accountability. And for Eric Trump, the realization was unmistakable. The story had moved beyond optics, beyond politics. It was now a legal reality with very real consequences.
The final chapter of this story unfolded quietly, but with a force that couldn't be ignored. Eric Trump, once calm and confident in the witness chair, now found himself isolated. The composed exterior he had relied on for so long had crumbled. Every carefully chosen word, every gesture of professionalism, was overshadowed by a mounting record of evidence that left no room for doubt. Behind closed doors, his legal team scrambled to contain the fallout. Motions were drafted, statements prepared, strategies debated. Cooperation, delay, or deflection, none of the options were safe, and the clock was ticking. Every public appearance, every statement, now risked adding another thread to a growing web of scrutiny. Meanwhile, prosecutors had already begun following the paper trail. Emails, financial records, internal communications, and foreign investment agreements were all being meticulously examined. Each document added pressure. Each signature and timestamp connected Eric Trump to actions that could not be ignored. Perjury, financial misconduct, and potential obstruction were no longer hypothetical, they were actively under investigation. Public attention remained relentless. Clips from the hearing, images of testimony, and social media commentary spread like wildfire. Millions watched as the calm, confident image of Eric Trump was replaced by one of hesitation and exposure. Every action, every post, every past statement was analyzed, replayed, and dissected. The narrative had shifted irrevocably. Inside the Trump Organization, the effects were immediate and tangible. Deals were paused, partnerships reconsidered, communications filtered. Executives quietly avoided placing him in positions of responsibility. The risk of association had become too great. Even allies who had once defended him began to retreat, understanding the stakes had grown far beyond politics. And yet, Jasmine Crockett's approach remained unchanged. Her calm, precise questioning had set the stage for the unraveling. She had not yelled, she had not accused, she had not sought to humiliate. She had simply allowed the truth and the record to speak for itself. And it had. By the time the dust settled, Eric Trump faced a stark reality. The strategy he had relied upon, confidence, composure, and tone, was insufficient against the facts. The record does not forget, and it does not bend. Every signature, every document, every statement became a permanent testament to actions that could not be undone. As legal analysts summarized, the lesson was unmistakable. Credibility cannot be manufactured. Calm and professionalism may provide cover temporarily, but the truth, once documented and verified, will always surface. For Eric Trump, the calm witness of the first hour was gone. What remained was the weight of accountability and the certainty that the consequences were only beginning. And as the story echoed across newsrooms, social media feeds, and courtrooms, one simple truth prevailed: tone alone cannot shield you from the truth. Facts, evidence, and the record, immutable, unblinking, and permanent, always win in the end.